This is Cross-Eyed, and I am your host, Brian. And this evening, we have Danny Guzman joining us again. It's been a while, Danny, so thank you for joining us this evening. But before he briefly reintroduces himself, just to remind you guys of who he is, let me read this quote to you related to our topic this evening. It's a quote by Dan Harmon. He says, "All TV shows are like cigarettes. You watch two, you have a higher chance of watching three. They're all addictive." All right, so with that, let me have Danny just briefly reintroduce himself, remind us of who you are, and also thank you again for joining us to discuss the topic of TV shows this evening. Take it away, Danny.
My pleasure, Brian. Thanks for having me back on. I'm Daniel Guzman. I'm a Chicago native, born in Puerto Rico, but I've been in Chicago since the age of 6. I am a full-time police officer, and I am an avid enthusiast of film, shows, just plain old storytelling, but primarily film.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Uh, so the first episode we recorded was actually the first episode for this channel. It was on movies, and now we're talking about TV shows, related, of course. But why? Let's start out by, maybe if you want, you could, I guess, briefly describe what qualifies as a TV show. Uh, Even though it seems like an obvious answer, perhaps. Uh, Maybe offering a more detailed description as to what actually qualifies as a TV show would be helpful to start off with.
Okay. In my in my words, I would say a TV show can be something that's some kind of series that's long standing, short standings. As we know, certain TV shows can go on only for one season. Some shows can end if the audience ratings aren't there during the first 3 weeks. It can plummet and it can be picked up by a smaller syndicate to finish that season that has already been recorded. But it's pretty much a story told for a longer period. Most films, as we know, tend to be an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2 hours 30 minutes. But a TV series can go on for seasons, for years, and they get to really experiment with that person's character, with multiple characters of that story, and give them plenty of longitude on a story. So a series often, of course, it's short. It could be a half-hour show. It could be a 20-minute show. And it also depends if it's on local. You have to deal with the ads compared to film, which you often won't have to see ads on. So it's just a lengthier story told in a longer process.
Well put, well put. And in light of that, then, as you know, and also referring back to the quote I read at the beginning, why do you think some shows are addictive? Generally speaking, why do you think some shows are addictive? And is that fair to say?
Get highly drawn into a story where you're looking forward to what the plot of a show is going to be the next time around. I think they are addictive if they're good, but it depends. Good is subjective when it comes to shows and film. It's what your preference is. Someone could be really into soap operas, and those are long standing, and like my mom definitely has definitely way different taste in TV series than I do. I mean, telenovelas are pretty much a TV series, and they're long-standing TV series, right? And she's highly addicted to those. When we saw them back in the day and stuff, I'd be at home and I could tell that my mom and dad were super into their whole telenovela.
Same here, same
Um,
here.
and I think that's what they are. They're huge. Yes, it's highly addictive. I think you can be really drawn to a character and a story, to their line. Like, where's it going? Like, they often have in like a lot of type of romantic shows, right? You have the girl and the guy, and it seems like they're destined to meet but a show kind of dies once they do have that happy moment where they meet. Like that's like the death of a TV show that's based on that arc. And
Yeah.
you can often tell that the ratings plummet after that. But people prior to that, they're addicted to that moment, waiting for that moment to take place, for the good girl and the good guy to finally, have peace and have everything go and the stars align and for them to be together. And then you kind of feel like that happily ever after is done, and most people don't want to see past it.
Yeah.
So there's things that, yeah, they're highly addictive. But back to your first, thing, yeah, can they be addictive? For sure. That's why people binge watch a show. That's
Sure.
why they, as your quote said, it's like what, two cigarettes, but then you like the third one. I'm like, that easily happens when you're like on Netflix and you watch two 30-minute shows, and then you're like looking at your clock. You know that you got to be up at a certain time, but you're like, man, one more 30-minute show because it left on a cliffhanger. Can I finish this? Do I got time? Can I spare 30 more minutes of my sleep? Yeah, hit next. You
There you
know,
go. Yep,
highly
gotta
addictive.
find ways to justify it. And now with with streaming services and so forth, we have so much more access to so many different shows that we can watch at our own time whenever we want to, right? And even obviously makes it possible to binge watch all the more. So
Very much.
why do you watch shows?
It goes back to the same old reason why I watch film. I just love storytelling. When you have a compelling story, uh, even more when you have compelling characters, because there's times that you can watch something and there's enough things out there that they don't have a redeemable character, and that's not compelling to me. But I do love the story of a character that's going through trials, and you see a lot of good qualities in that person, and you see what they're up against, but what you would like to see them come into, and you're like, man, this seems pretty cool. This guy's really, oh man, like, is he gonna be able? It just pulls you in. I think we're just, as humans, we're drawn to stories. It draws me to these films, and it draws me to these series. Even more gratification, I think it's the fact that these series are longer term. You get really hooked in a film, and then the story ends. It's an hour and 50 minutes, and it was great. It was well told, well acted, but you kind of like almost want to like, "Ah, what happened after this? Well, that's the beauty of a TV series or a series or a mini series. The fact that you not only get now a 2 hour story, you get that story stretched out to 10 hours, 12 hours, and you get to see more character depth in that character, and you get to just enjoy hearing more about this person's life and be the fly in the wall that hears and sees what's going on in this person's life.
It allows you to be invested longer, and that's one of the unique features of shows, right? Um,
Exactly.
No, so in light of this conversation about storytelling, right? That is the key word, key phrase here is that of storytelling. So, what benefit is there in watching shows? How can we benefit from various types of storytelling?
Well, I think um, the main pleasure you get out of it is entertainment. That goes without saying. I think there's more benefit in a documentary, yet people, I would say, are drawn more. I mean, there's plenty of people who are drawn to documentaries, and for good reason. They're enlightening. There's much to learn of it. They're engaging, but most people are drawn to storytellings in the fact of a drama, of an action, of whatever genre you like. But I think it's the entertainment aspect. It's almost like reading a book. It's someone's viewpoint of bringing a book to life. That director showing you a visual of what you imagine, or like I've heard someone say the backwards end of it. Like when someone gets into a book, it's like they're visualizing the story. So that's where it is. It brings, so for me, it's entertainment. Of course, that's the primary thing that you get out of it is you enjoy it. You're entertained by it. You're thrilled by it. You're wowed by it. Things that you could never see happen. You're seeing it in your living room, in your bedroom. You're seeing it happen. Right there from the comfort of your home. Um, of course, there's storytelling that's engaging and tells you a truth about something that happened, like Schindler's List, right? We weren't we weren't alive during World War II to see the monstrosity that Hitler put a whole nation through, many nations, and a certain kind of people, right? But we get to see it kind of come to life through Schindler's List, and see the horrors that the Jews had to go through, and empathize for what happened there, and not forget it, and not have it happen again, right? So there's the aspect of also learning something that took place.
Yeah, yeah. It reminded me a little bit of it's likewise with movies. This is true of movies. Like I was thinking recently, and I think even discussing with my wife how, like I really like Star Wars. I really like the Dark Knight trilogy. Yeah, I even really like Harry Potter. I've been rewatching the films with my wife lately, and and not only is it well produced or well made, good acting, good story, there's all of that, but just there's also how do I put it, they plug particular strings in one's hearts, I guess, right? And they have particular themes that they focus on, that they develop very well, like in the Dark Knight trilogy, right? The whole issue with fear, right? That seems to be the running theme throughout the entire trilogy. So it's just very unique how it focuses well on that and it develops that theme very well. And when I look at Star Wars, I think of like family and friendship, like that's huge in Star Wars. The whole story itself revolves around a family, right? And where I look at Harry Potter, like the emphasis being that of love, right? I mean, I think that's even what J.K. Rowling was trying to, or she said herself, that it's about love. That's basically what it comes down to. Even though it's like covered up and dressed up in the world of magic, the goal was to communicate a story of love, right? Harry Potter, his friends, his parents who got killed, etc. Anyway, I say all that just to highlight how there's particular themes that are like well developed and touched on in movies and TV shows that that resonate with us, right? That are important to us, that reflect our values, that are worth reflecting on, thinking upon, meditating upon, learning from, right? They're educational in nature, even like you mentioned. So it's not just mere entertainment or escapism, right? It's more than that, and as part of the beauty of storytelling and how that's visually portrayed in film. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's it's funny when you mentioned those three,
They're very different
big,
too.
yeah, those three gigantic films that have a bunch of series to it. That's Dark Knight, three-part series. It's a film, but it's a trilogy, right? Harry Potter is it like 7 episodes, 7 or 8 films?
Like
I
eight.
forget. 8 films, and Star Wars. Oh, I mean, it's so you mentioned all those, and what goes through my head while you were saying all that was the soundtrack music for each one of those,
Mm.
and it's seared in my head. Every single one of those has an iconic
Yeah.
sound to it and life to it, and that's another like rabbit hole that like I know we're not talking about musical soundtrack genres, but when you mention those, that's what like gravitates the grandeur of their music,
Yeah.
and like how it does pluck on my emotional heartstrings when I hear those films. I think of those songs and how those songs resonated throughout the story, and they brought it to life even more. The acting, of course, everything else, the whole cinematography for all those three films, the theme, as you said, love with Harry Potter, and justice, and with Dark Knight, and the father loss, and parent loss, all that, all those things that take place. Star Wars, the father figure issue, all that. It's engaging in so many ways, but they also know how to attack you visually, um, audibly, your mind, your emotions, everything. the whole like relationship issues that are going on there, the conflicts, it all resonates, and in the end, it just pulls you into that story even more.
Yeah, yeah, and they're all like otherworldly too. Like
Yeah, they are otherworldly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
although Batman is the most realistic, but even then, just the things that take place is very unique. So yeah, just threw that in there. Just came
No, no, I
came to
like it. I
mind.
like it. I like to
Want to
hear
hear
what
your
you're
thoughts
into.
on that? Yeah. Yeah, this is just some examples. Because I've been watching Harry Potter with my wife, and I've also been watching the Dark Knight trilogy by myself lately because the Batman movie's coming up. I'm gonna be watching it when it comes out. So I've been wanting to just go through the Batman story again, basically, before I watch the new film that's coming out.
Sure,
Even though
sure.
it's like another film in of itself or another reinterpretation, I just wanted to kind of get a little review prior to.
No, no, no,
But
nothing wrong with that.
yeah, yeah. So we talk about some of the benefits, why you watch shows, why they're addictive, why we enjoy them. What would be some cautions though, on the flip side of that? What would be some cautions that you would offer people in general when watching shows?
It's pretty much the same caution that I would advise with film. Just the moral compass that you have to that you're taking in. What's your moral compass? What are you allowing into your head? Because once it's in, it's in. It's not something you can go to your mind palace and grab that whole Rolodex and take out Dark Knight, delete. I no longer want to have this. I don't feel it's edifying to my mind. It's done. It's there. So of course, as always, do your homework as to what you're watching or what you're allowing someone to watch. Something currently that's being out there that I personally don't want to see for moral reasons is Euphoria with Zendaya and stuff. It's an HBO Max, and it deals with like high school, but the premises that I've heard is highly sexual, highly it almost promotes drugs to a point. And now every actor on that show a lot of the actors are playing high schoolers. They're not high schoolers. They're adults. But a high schooler sees this. What kind of influence does it have on that person, on that young mind, even on an adult mind? It's how how much entertainment or is that type of entertainment worth it for your soul? And for me personally, it's not worth it. You know it ends up being more damaging than entertaining down the road. It may have an instant gratification in its writing or the acting or what's happening, but it sways to darker realms than I care to ingest. And I think that goes for any viewer. You need to know that I've said that books shape you. What you read shapes you, right? Anything that you read gives you a mindset of something. It gives you more knowledge, or and you may rest your identity on a book. And I think film has. I think people tend to think that film doesn't do the same, but I think it does. I think it
Yeah.
does. I think we deny it in a sense because we see it as an entertainment box, but it has just as much of a grab, I think, as a book can have, even more sometimes.
Yeah, because of its visual nature, right? So it's gonna perhaps more easily in some ways be imprinted upon your mind, like you were mentioning earlier. Like, there are images that you're just not gonna forget, right? You wish you could delete, but you just can't. And so yeah, it sticks with you. And then not only that, but they try to like appeal not to other senses, right? Not just your visual, but even your audible, right? So when you hear something, like you were referring to the soundtracks, right, that brings to mind certain things. So like, yeah, it's storytelling, it's visual, it's audible, so like it has a lot of elements that definitely can impact whoever's watching it for good or for better or for worse, right? So
Indeed.
yeah, any additional thoughts on that come to
Um,
mind?
yeah, no, I just often go by that precaution is often something that I discuss with my wife, something that I discuss with my kids. They'll come at me and say, "Hey, my friend is watching this and stuff, and he says it's pretty good," and they'll try to coax me with like oh, this actor's in it, and like, yeah, let's see what it's about. Let's read the synopsis. Let's go to the parent guide, as I said, and the parent guide's not just for them. I use it for myself. It's not like just, hey,
Sure.
what, I just go this for my kids. No, I use it to see, there's many parent guides that you can find through the internet that will give you the breakdown of everything. How much uh, alcohol use is in the film, how many sex scenes, what kind of sex scenes, how much violence, what kind of violence, how much gore, how much foul language is there. So I'm sure every household has a tolerance different than every other one. So it depends on your threshold, on what you allow in your household, what you allow in your eyes. So I would always say, just do your homework. Make sure to go to those things. Don't go blindly into something that you can't take back.
Yeah. And another thing too is that uh, there are good films, right, and shows that don't necessarily have those things in them, and that are still, one can still enjoy and delight in, even, and that are well produced, well made shows that are quite entertaining, that sometimes people overlook because they think that that's all there is and there's no other alternatives or better options.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
So what shows do you recommend and why? Like, what specific shows would you recommend and
Hmm.
why?
All right.
I'm
So
sure you've seen quite a few, but you were to just, whether it be some one day you've seen a long time ago, or one that you recently watched, or one that you're currently watching. Perhaps
yeah, yeah, yeah.
share a few here.
Okay. So I don't know why this one comes to mind right now, and it wasn't even one that I was even thinking about mentioning to you during this podcast. But since we can go back a little bit, and this is not that old, but it's like but it did win awards last year for, I think, the Golden Globes, and I don't think, since we didn't talk about shows last time, we talked about film, I wouldn't have mentioned it, but the show that I'm thinking of, and it's a mini series. I think it ran 8 episodes, but that's it. There's not going to be a season two, and it was through Netflix. Was Queen's Gambit. So I don't know if you heard of it, but it's fictional, and it's about a young girl whose mom. I'm not giving out any spoilers by saying this, but it will happen on episode one, guys. But at least, uh, just to let you know, it starts off with the premise with a young girl who's probably about 9 or 10, and this takes place probably like in the 1940s, 1950s, and her mom gets into an accident with her, and the mom dies, and this girl becomes an orphan, and she has to live in an orphanage with a bunch of other girls. During her time at the orphanage, she befriends the janitor, who is a chess player. He plays chess like in the basement, like in his dungeon, and during her whole trauma, like of being in this new place, and she's not knowing what she's doing. She's trying to make friends, but she's making sense of this misery that she's in right now. She's drawn to that for some reason. So this janitor playing chess to a game that's like piquing her curiosity, and right away the janitor starts seeing that this girl is showing incredible talent, like right away, like she's picking it up like nothing. And the premise goes where he's teaching her, and she's just like getting better and better, lightning fast, where he calls like a local school who's got a chess teacher, who's got a chess coach team and everything. And he sees, yeah, that she's like an anomaly. There's something extremely special about her. And it goes now to like the present actress who's in it. I forget her name, but she's doing a lot right now. I forget. um and it shows like her growth as a chess player, also like dealing with the trauma, like of what happened. And it's just like a nice period piece. I think right after this film, the show ended, there was like a big surge of chess games being bought on Amazon, because it
Right.
became so popular that it was like even drawing people back to playing chess.
It's a great game.
But yeah, it's yeah, it's, oh yeah, of course. I'm actually currently hooked on it 'cause I
Oh, good.
play with a bunch of kids for the police department, and I
Nice.
love it. But yeah, it's a nice period piece. It's nice. It's got a lot of good like costume, to that feel, to that era. And it's a good character story about this girl who's got all these sorts of problems, but is brilliant, and she's trying to like go up in the ranks to beat like the top chess grandmaster like in Russia, and that's what she's working herself into. Also, like, you know, trying to have a family during her whole like isolation of being an orphan to getting picked up by a family that's also kind of like from a broken home. This husband and wife, and the husband's not really caring to be an adoptive father, but the wife did, and then it just jumps into that a little bit with that whole relationship, and then it goes past that where she's a woman older now, living by herself, but still loving chess, and it's just really well done overall. Mind you, it has some drug use. But the drug use is she's hooked as a kid while she's in this orphanage. They're giving kids like some kind of medicine to keep calm at the orphanage. Well, she uses it. She gets addicted early on during the show with it, but it helps her focus on chess. And then she thinks that she can't work without it, but she realizes like by the middle to end that she never needed it. She's just awesome, you know, and stuff. So there's that aspect, but that's kind of the route that it goes. There's a bit of foul language, but nothing too crazy where I would say, you know, it's not that bad. But as always, guys, do your research, see what you can tolerate. But very good show, very well written. For those of you who haven't seen it and want to see something pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a good story, man. You said it was called what? Queen's Gambit?
Queen's Gambit,
Yeah,
and Queen's Gambit
hence, yeah,
actually it's a chess move
yeah,
in
exactly.
chess. Yeah, it's a
Perfect. Yeah,
chess
no,
opening.
it's a good good title for that. What any other shows and why?
Yeah. So I saw that about like a year ago or like a year and a half ago. Currently, I've been into there's this producer slash writer named Taylor Sheridan, and he's kind of like the Western storyteller. He's been doing this very popular show right now. It's on its fourth season. It's called Yellowstone, and the lead character in it is Kevin Costner.
Good
And
choice for that
I
role.
yes, you know what? To me, Kevin Costner is like our era John Wayne. You
Mm.
know, like a person who does great westerns. It doesn't say much, but has that character like down like crazy. He doesn't like a brooding westerner that, you know, with few words says a lot. But the Yellowstone premise is a he's a ranch owner, and he owns tons and tons of acres in Montana, so much that he has a pool like with the local governor for the state of Montana. But he's huge, and he has this like huge family legacy that dates back to like late 1880s. That's when his forefathers found that land in Montana, and it's kind of this big, huge legacy that he keeps, and he's been wanting to pass it on to his like three sons or four sons and one daughter. And it's kind of like the whole premise of who he's passing the torch to, and all the conflicts that come with being such a, you know, huge landowner in a rural area where like modern America is trying to push themselves into their land. Can they want to build resorts, but he wants to keep it just as his dad always meant for it to be, for this, you know, peaceful land to stay like this, you know, the old country style with cowboys, and that's being fought against him, and he's fighting hard to keep it that way. And that one has multiple characters that are like so fascinating to watch. From the siblings, every sibling has their own like kind of tragedy to bear, and huge obstacle to deal with. And they all look up to their dad, Kevin Costner, and they all have like this like either very unhealthy relationship with their father that they have to like overcome, and yet he has a lot of qualities, of course, that they admire. But it's like they're all fighting for his love, and he's fighting to you know, to make his kids be grown up enough to take care of this legacy. Yeah, he's also trying to love him, but he's got that tough love aspect shell that he's got to get past. But it's so well done, so amazing. It really does play like a soap opera. This is as close to a soap opera as it gets for me.
A Western soap opera.
But it's really good. Every season is, I believe, 8 episodes, and the fourth season just ended this past fall, and I believe they're gonna do one more season, and that's it. But out of that show, they just came out this past fall with a prequel to the family called 1883, and I just finished watching that. They just had the last episode, I believe, aired 2 weeks ago, and that was only like six or seven episodes only. They're each like 1 hour long, and now it goes back to when they first when his great grandfather migrated uh, to Montana, and you get to see like the like whole like Oregon Trail, uh, huge venture, and it deals with like Native Americans. It deals with tons of foreigners from like Europe that came here to fight oppression that they had in their country, and they came here thinking that they were sold a bill of goods that here's where the freedom lies, and here's where you can leave that oppression. But it's so highly evolved. There's like so much to these stories. It's really enjoyable, and I'm a big fan of like that kind of western. Seeing like the home front and someone building up and getting their land. It's exciting. I enjoy it very much.
Good. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about that show. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard a few people actually recommend it to me. So I'm glad you brought it up as well. I'm gonna have to look into it.
Yeah,
Yellowstone, right?
yes, for the show 1883, the lead characters are the country singer Tim McGraw and his wife Faith Hill, and they're
Look at that.
playing husband and wife, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, it
Then
is.
there's a bunch of names that of actors that are not um, well known, but they're making their mark in this show. So it's also kind of cool seeing when it's not someone like Tom Cruise taking a role or someone that's huge that all you see is that actor playing a role. You can get lost a little more when you get some credible actors who are uh, not as well known, and you're like, all right, this is the first thing I'm seeing them in. Wow, like you get more enthralled in believing that this is who they are.
Yeah, that
So
with that first encounter. Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I kind of get out of both Yellowstone but even more in 1883.
Okay. Yeah, from a chess player to a rancher.
Yeah, yeah,
But there's stories. They're good stories, right? And worth
yes,
checking
they are.
out. Any other last show you would recommend, or
Yeah. Man, I'm embarrassed to say how much I watch sometimes. All right, so
well, hold up before you answer. Then, just since you mentioned that, just comes to mind because I know some may think that, well, Danny, you're just spending too much time watching TV.
yeah,
What
it
would you
may
say
seem
to
that
that?
way.
What would you say to folk that would think that, and then they may think that no, you should be. Why don't you just go grab a book instead, or go do something else? Why watch these shows or whatever? What would you say to that?
All right, mind your business. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Well, that might be
But
your initial thought, probably.
yeah, no. In honesty, so all right, so it may sound like I'm watching a lot, but so mostly I tend to watch one episode, which might be a lot, one episode a night of like so I may be watching maybe 3 or 4 shows, 3 or 4, but I'm watching them, and I'm not watching one of each
Yeah.
per night. But I'll be watching something like like I talked to you prior to the podcast. My wife and I start to debrief at 10 o'clock at night about our day because we finally have had our time with the kids, and the kids are going upstairs. My teenage kids are going to their rooms to get themselves ready for school, and this is our time for me and Annette to spend like an hour and a half just going through what happened with our day. So maybe like the first half hour we're just chilling, talking about what happened, and then we're like, all right, let's watch a show. And I'm kind of in line. She's kind of in line with me. We both have similar tastes, so there's pretty much nothing that I'm watching that I'm not watching with her.
Right.
And we'll say, hey, do you feel for something really sad and tragic? or do you want to watch this thing that's kind of witty that we enjoy? So we'll take it to try to consume it slow, just for the fact that like I've done the whole binge watching thing, and it's enjoyable, but I feel like you also lose out on a lot there. um it's it's a lot to like ingest. It's just like having a great steak, but having two steaks just because one's great. I mean, sure, you can try to fit it inside your stomach, but is it healthy? So I've learned over time to not binge watch. So I consume it and I chew the cud like a cow does slowly, and so to those who might think that I'm watching a lot, maybe it is a watch. Maybe it is a lot for certain families to watch one episode a night. Maybe some people, tend to watch TV. I don't know, like twice a week or three times a week. But for someone like me who's been an avid film goer for quite some time. Maybe I should have curbed it a long time ago. This is me curbing it. Doing one show a night is me being conservative.
Yeah, yeah. And there's that, like I think that we didn't bring this up, but there's that component of like relaxation, right? Like, you had a long day. Of course, you could grab a book, right, or do something of that like that. And for some folk, it works, and some people do that. And yeah, we should probably read more in general. But there is something about just, especially when you're not watching it by yourself and you're watching it, whether it be with your family or just with your spouse, just it's just relaxing and you're still enjoying that time together, right? Even though you're both watching it, you might react to some things, discuss some things during the show. So there's this element where you get to enjoy it along with your spouse, and it's also relaxation to some degree that I think is nice to have it as well, especially after a
Yeah,
long day.
I agree. And not to harp on this, since this is not a book podcast, but I do enjoy a good book. But I'm a daytime reader. So when I think of a book at night, for me personally, it just lulls me to sleep because I'm just tired at that point. But for some reason, film or TV doesn't do that to me that easily. So I'm more of a morning reader, and I do have books that I'm currently reading, but that I tend to read in the morning. My morning time is my best time to ingest the book, and that's what works best for me. For my wife, it's opposite. She can do both. She can read a book at night and stay awake, and she can see something and stay awake. But that doesn't jive with my mental like alertness. It just puts me straight to it's my melatonin if I read a book at night.
Yeah, yeah. Can you at least play chess as well at night?
If I do, I might just, which I have often done through chess.com.
Mm.
Uh, Often I just go to sleep angry because I go to sleep when I'm losing. I
Yeah,
often don't
not a
don't
good
don't want to
choice.
stop when I'm winning, and I'll play the next person. So I've kind of done with playing chess at night.
Yeah, good. Wise move.
Yes.
That's good, man. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for sharing all that. Any additional comments or final thoughts that you wanna share as we wrap this episode up?
Yeah, just a real quick plug to some other shows that
Yeah.
I was going to mention. I'm currently seeing the new Jack Reacher show that's on Amazon. It's based on the books of Jack Reacher, which the films were, which it was made into a film with Tom Cruise. There was a part one and a part two. But a lot of the fans were pretty upset with it because Tom Cruise didn't fit the physical size of the character that's described in the book. So they went with someone that actually fits the physicality of it, even though I think Tom Cruise did a great job. In part one, I wasn't a big fan of the second film. So it's kind of like a modern day Sherlock Holmes with a former military police um, type of officer, and he's out of the military, and it's kind of like he lands in a town where like a crime happened that is partially involved with someone of his past, and no one knows who this Jack Reacher fella is, and he's a lot. He's like He's like a Swiss Army knife of wealth and knowledge and strength and all that stuff. And he has a lot of good attributes to himself. He comes with that old soul mentality of being like a gentleman, yet being able to kill you in a second if he really wanted to. Um, so that's one show that I'm currently watching, and I'm a fan also of this other show called Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I believe it's on his third or fourth season, and the new season just came out on Amazon last Friday. But for the first time ever, Amazon's getting smart and only put the first two episodes. They used to just put the whole show, and I think they've 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 probably seen people maybe sign up for like Amazon for like a second to binge watch it and then cancel it by the end of the month. And now they're doing it where they just had the first two episodes and that's it. And this one's based like in the 1960s, I believe, or 1950s, and it's about this Jewish lady who thought that she did everything right to marry the right person, the right nice Jewish man, and be the perfect wife. And she's witty and she has all these great qualities. But on the first season, her husband wants out of the marriage, and she's kind of like left like what? And at the time prior to him dropping that bomb on her, he was a businessman who was also moonlighting as a comedian, trying to. He thought he could be a stand-up comic, but the wife was kind of like she's kind of funnier than he is, and he's taking jokes from famous comedians and biting them like they're his. But when that whole thing happens and her whole life turns upside down, she goes onto a rampage and goes to the local comedy club and just starts saying how she feels, and people are laughing and people are having like a huge laugh at it. And his manager sees her and says, "Wow, who is this person? She's pretty funny." And lo and behold, the more that unravels, she takes to being a comedian. And in those times, like a female comedian is like super rare. So the whole premise is it's of this woman, this Jewish woman who is now newly divorced, not of her own choice, is trying to break boundaries here and be a famous comic. And she has the chops for it, but she has to fight the male the the male fight that is mostly sold for men to do this. It's like she has to fight for that role.
Good one, man. Quite a variety from the chess player to the rancher to reacher
Yeah, to
to
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
yes, yes, yes. Good. See, I like that variety. Yeah, thanks for sharing all that. So I'll say sound like good shows to check out. I have heard of that last one you mentioned, and I have seen the Reacher one, but I haven't seen either one of those any episodes yet. I'm also very interested in the Yellowstone one. I may have to look that one up at some point.
Yeah, Yellowstone is on I believe it's on Paramount Plus app.
Okay.
And but that's the thing too. They make it so hard. Like it's not like you
Yeah.
can just like catch it on local TV. You got to find which type of subscription you're on that
Yeah.
has it and stuff. So that one's on Paramount Plus, and so is 1883. Queen's Gambit's on Netflix, and the last two that I mentioned, Jack Reacher and Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, are both on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff, man. Thanks, Danny, again for joining us this evening to discuss the topic of shows, TV shows in particular, and what we can learn from it, how we can benefit from them, and just how delightful and fun it is, and entertaining, and even educational it is to even just engage and watch some of these shows. So hopefully it was encouraging for those of you listening, and hopefully you can also join us again, Danny, for some other episodes. We could discuss other similar topics and whatnot. So thanks again for joining us, Danny. Appreciate having you on again.
Anytime, brother. Thanks for having me on. Till next time.
Yes, sir. Good night.
Good night, brother.